Hello, and welcome to another episode of Scavenger Life. This is episode number 343 at scavengerlife.com.
We want to share with you one of our deepest secrets.
This is not much
We
of a
want to
secret.
let you into some of our most private conversations.
Jay,
All right.
you had too much coffee this morning.
Isn't that a great way to start a podcast? And that is, how do we get anything done?
Yes.
I mean, these are conversations we have all the time in this house. You know, we work for ourselves. We have no boss.
Yeah.
Everything depends on us. There's no safety net.
Yeah.
Make or break. And so we're like, okay, we want to do, it's this thing. And my next question is, how are we going to do that? You know?
That's also my next question, always.
Well, sometimes it causes some stress and arguments in our house. But really, that's
Yes.
how we've done everything we've done up until now, is that we'll have like a goal, you know?
Right.
Like, we want to buy another house to rent.
Right.
And it's like, okay, that's a great goal, you know? That's
Yeah,
like
it's
a Tony Robbins thing. Like, you got to set goals and be positive and, you know,
Yep.
you have to put the thought out into the universe. Okay,
Yep.
great. But, I mean, I'm more of a like, let's come back down to like working class. All right, how do you do that?
Yeah. how do you
And the
do it?
way we do it is we break that project down to many different pieces.
Steps.
Right. And, you know, it's like, and people are like, yeah, of course, you know, big deal. But I find like a lot of people we know don't do that.
Yeah.
Like we have friends
Yeah.
who are super smart and super talented.
And very motivated
And we
ambitious.
see them get paralyzed in these projects, and we will try and be like, all right, well, you know, okay, so let's, you know, how are you doing this? And we want, you know, and we expect them to be like, oh, okay, I'm breaking the project down into these pieces. And they don't do that. And I've even tried to push people on that, like, okay, let's break it down. And people kind of get mad about that.
Yeah.
Like, they get frustrated.
They get offended.
Because I think a lot of us, and I get it, because, I mean, that's my instinct too. I just want it to happen, you know?
Of course. You want it to be a magic thing where you're like, I thought of this idea. I want it.
Right. And
So why, you know,
Right.
why isn't it happening?
like, I'm smart, I'm motivated, I'll do anything, and Wednesday
Right.
afternoon, I just want to wrap it all up, and like, there it is,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, you know, because as we know, with big projects or ideas, it's daunting. The little steps, because
Right.
those are all the little things you have to do to make it
Right.
real.
So let's make an example.
Yes.
So this storage building
Yes.
that we've talked about, we posted pictures of,
Yes, we've talked about it for...
we finally got it built.
Yes.
It's still not done yet.
Right.
But let's talk about this. So we've been talking about getting a storage building at least 48 months.
Yeah, at
Well,
least two...
sorry, not
No,
40.
48 months is 4 years, right? 2 years. 2 years.
24 months.
It's been
Yep.
2 years because we got the permit to
Right.
do it 2 years ago.
Right. So, you know, we've been talking about it, and then it's like, okay, let's do it. And the steps were, we had to get a permit.
Right.
Because we're in an area where, yeah, we couldn't just do it without a permit because we'd get in trouble. And that's the right thing to do. Number two, we had to find somebody to excavate the site.
Right.
You know?
It's not a perfectly flat piece of land.
Right, because I was
at
like-
all.
I was like, okay, it's ready to go. And then the guy comes out, he's like, no, that thing is like, I have to put like 4 feet of dirt on one side. I was like, are you serious?
And then he showed us, and it was true.
And he was right. He popped a line, as they say in the industry. Then we had to, after that, have a slab poured, you know?
And not just any, like, concrete is a science, and this guy's like, okay, you have to get the footers that are dug. The permit people, the building people have to say those are okay. They measure them.
County, right. They had its requirements. And, you know, we
Right.
could have just done it on gravel, but we were like, let's do this right, you know?
Yeah.
And so, you know, that was about like I had to find a guy and talk to him.
Even if it was gravel, we still had to get all the excavation done, you
Yeah,
know? So
sure.
that does not
Yeah.
eliminate that
Right.
part.
And then we had to actually order the building.
Right.
And that's a whole thing itself because there's money down and we have to, you know, it's research and making sure we're getting the right one. And we've talked about, do we stick build it or do we get this a metal building?
And actually that held up our timeline for a while.
Right.
Well, we were renovating another house, so
Right.
that held that up. But we were like, what should we do?
We were a little bit paralyzed.
Yeah, a little bit paralyzed for like 6 months.
And then once we ordered it, we actually had to get it built, and that was like waiting for this company and like calling them every couple weeks, like, where are you? And like, when's it going to happen? And
yeah.
Okay, and now that it got built, now what we've been doing is we had to get electric in there.
Now, we didn't have to.
Right.
It could be a storage building without electric. However, it would really suck without it.
Right. And that was a whole thing. Thank God we know a good guy that does electric, so that was the easy part. But he had to come out, we had to talk about it, we had to go buy all the lights.
Yeah.
It's been cold and this guy's busy and, coordinating with him. And then what I'm working on now is getting a trench dug in our yard.
To run the electric
from
line.
our house to this building to get the electric done. And so I'm talking to this guy every couple of days, and it's like the ground's frozen and I'm busy because water lines are breaking and I'm helping people get water back up. And so,
so it's tough in January.
And then I have to get this electric guy to come back and like actually put the electric in the ground and put up the box.
And then we have to get the final inspection on the building and the electric.
And then we were like, okay, so let's, not wait. Once it's all done, how are we going to organize things? We'd be like, well, let's get shelves. And we like research shelves, and we've bought shelves, and we've had them delivered to us. And then we have to put those together.
Yeah.
And then once all that's done, then we actually have to like bring all of our inventory in and to organize it. And I guess I just bring all this up is nothing happens overnight. That's a kind of cool thing about this podcast. We get a lot of people who email us. They like stumble upon us mainly on YouTube.
Yeah.
And then they, for some reason, think that we're these like friends in the darkness. And they write us these like long emails about like where they are in their life.
Yeah.
Probably because they just don't want to tell anybody else.
Well,
and, and it's all about being disorganized and not having money and being desperate and having these dreams of having a store, and it's a lot. And I always tell people, you got to get started small.
Right.
Put up 20 things. That kind of thing. Like organize at your house in a way. Like have one room where everything's stored. I mean, that kind of thing.
Right.
And I think that when I read these emails, the want is they're like there's a secret that they don't know yet, and I'm going to tell them where everything that they want, everything that they need is going to be solved instantly, and that's just not how it works for anybody,
Yeah. I felt like this week, I mean, especially with trying to get the electric done and getting the trench guy to come out, even with eBay or our rentals, it did feel like it's all these little tiny things, like the tiniest thing, especially for a rental, where you're like, the toilet paper roll at our new house, it kept breaking. And finally we were like, get the one from upstairs in our house that we know is solid and put it in there. And it's those little things that you're like, that seems like the most minuscule thing, but it's actually like a big deal, for your business.
The small things are what it matters. And the great thing, too, about breaking things up in small pieces is that all the small pieces are doable, and that's the thing. And so, I love it because I can get these little tiny successes.
Right.
I'm like, okay, I did that one little thing, and now I can do the next thing. But
although I do want to say that sometimes it's hard for people like myself to have like a million little things on a to-do list, because I'm like, oh, I have to do that thing. I haven't done it yet.
Who sends you to-do lists? Who would do something like that?
And, and it's good. And I mean, like today I did something that I needed to do that's been on my to-do list since like October.
Right.
What the heck? But I just kept being...
What was that?
It was like I needed to download these high-res photos of one of our rentals onto my laptop.
Right. Well,
you're just like, I haven't done that yet.
Sometimes that happens.
But so, it can be paralyzing to have that stuff. But like you said, it's great because you just check that off and you're like, done.
Yep. And we've talked about it. We installed it, I think, a year or two ago. We have like a little chalk. What is
It's a whiteboard.
A whiteboard
And
in our kitchen.
I want to tell you this: that whiteboard's almost too small. We got this kind of like,
I think if
like 10
I think
by
if it was
12.
bigger, it would get a little overwhelming. And I know some people, they like paint a wall with that like chalk paint, and they like write on it.
Yeah.
That's fine. But we just needed something small. And I mean, I need it. And some of those things are on there for a long time because they're kind of big things I have on there, and a lot of it has to do with organizing other people, like
right.
getting the right guy to be able to come out and do something, and that always takes a long time.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's the thing. And so, if anyone's confused about how all of it just works, it's just little tiny things. I mean, even running our eBay business, it's like we always call it the unglamorous part of eBay.
Right.
Like everyone loves to watch those videos on YouTube, the haul of videos where like, I bought all this stuff and look, I'm going to make $1 million. But the unglamorous part that people don't like to talk about, or maybe they don't even like to do, is like, hey, I got to, go through all this. I got to organize my inventory. I have to like take pictures of it. I have to
list it.
Yeah.
Look, people hate listing.
I've got to store it. When someone ask questions, I got to deal with them when it sells, and if the person's not happy, I got to deal with that person. I mean,
even shipping, there are times where, and it's a good thing when shipping feels like a grind, but you're just like, every morning when I pack stuff, I'm like, this has to get done because this is the part of the business. I like shipping, but
thank God.
But there are times like today when, like, we'll probably talk about it, things have been slow, and I'm like, I have 4 things to ship.
Yeah.
Like, you're just like...
Yeah, we want shipping to be annoying, where it's like, I hate shipping because that means you're selling.
You made money.
Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of remind people of that.
Look, I do want to say this, too, about small little things, making something happen. That's what a renovation is. Yeah. It's like step by step by step by step, like a million little steps. And then finally you're like, oh my God, it's done.
Yeah. Like, we are working on a big project that might start this summertime.
Right.
And it's pretty daunting, something we've never done before, really. And it's a lot, But the great thing is we now have enough experience where
that we know
how to break down these projects. And so...
But at the same time, it's good to be naive about stuff like that because you'll never do it.
Well,
if you really break it down.
I think when people say that about it's naive, it's more about, I don't have to actually have done any of the stuff.
Yeah.
But I also can go in knowing I don't have to know all the answers right away.
Right.
So as long as I'm willing to learn and ask the right questions and ask people that have done that thing for their advice, I mean, that's a big one.
Right.
I mean, a lot of these guys who's on my list of people to call, these like, it's craftsmen, these contractors, these workmen. I'm like, I want to do this. How do I do it?
How do I do it?
And they'll say, okay, this is how it's normally done. And I'm like, well, what if I wanted to do it? It's like this. And I mean, and that's always free too.
Yeah.
Because I'm talking to people before I've even hired them.
Yeah.
And that gives me a sense of like, do I like their attitude?
Right.
Are they easy to talk to? Are they interested?
Right.
I mean, I always just want to find guys who are kind of interested in the job and not guys who like are going to act like they're doing me a favor. You know?
Right.
So, all right, let's talk about something kind of random, but it's definitely relevant. So, I am not a lawyer or an accountant. Do not take my word on taxes, but taxes are coming up.
Right.
The new tax bill,
which will be for 2018, not this year.
That Congress just passed, this is for when you do taxes in a year. So it doesn't have anything to do with what we're all going to be doing in the next couple months. So I was kind of reading it, and it says that pass-through business owners can deduct 20% of their business income before they pay taxes. So, for example, if your online business makes a profit of $50,000, you would only pay taxes on $40,000.
See, so right off the bat, you're able to take 20%.
And so, again, okay, I have a couple things to say about this. Oh, and what this means is, if you have a business structure like an LLC or an S corp or even a sole, it's proprietorship, proprietorship, or if you have, like we do, a general partnership.
Yeah.
That's how it works. So the way we do it, all of our eBay income, our rentals, all that go into a big pot to our general partnerships. And that's something that we got done at the county. You know, it's really easy to do.
Yeah.
And then what our accountant does is he takes all of the expenses and all that stuff, gets a number, and then we split that up and we pay taxes on that through our personal income. And that's called a pass-through. It's business. And it's very common if you own like a small business. You know, a lot of the businesses on Main Street are probably that kind of business. You know?
Yeah.
So that's kind of a big deal if that's true. I mean, if we could, you know, take our eBay income and then deduct 20% off of it. So I don't know. It's something I've written down, and I'm going to talk to our accountant when we meet with him.
Is this true?
Yeah, and you know, and the thing is, I read online is like people don't even know. I mean, it's funny that there's a new tax bill. I guess the idea was going to make things simpler. It doesn't make anything simpler. It's just more tax loopholes and. You know, and it's unfortunate, you know, working people who pay W-2s don't really stand a chance, I guess, unless they have kids, because the kids they get more deductions, but it's whatever. I mean, and I guess just to wrap this up, I mean, I think what's interesting is like tax loopholes or the way taxes work. I'm kind of thinking like, I wonder if that's just the way that rich people scavenge, you know, like. They don't want to scavenge by selling their old shoes. I mean, they're willing to pay a lot of money for shoes and just give them away. But because maybe they're thinking at a higher way than as we are. They're hiring lobbyists and lawyers and accountants and stuff to find the loopholes where they just don't have to pay as much taxes. And that's their way of scavenging.
Yeah. I think you're right.
Yep. Cool. So anyway, That's
a very fun conversation as I fall asleep. Yeah, I know. What is the answer?
But, you know, it is what it is, and we're going to, you know, scavenge as in taxes the best of them, you know. Do it all illegal, but take advantage of every opportunity that they're sticking in there.
I mean, yeah, I would love to hear from our accountant, like, is this how you interpret it?
Right, exactly.
For next year, anyway.
Okay, so eBay. We had a decent week. It hasn't been gangbusters.
It's been slow at the end of the week, but it is a holiday weekend, which I completely forgot about.
Right.
I'm like, oh yeah, but does that mean people aren't shopping? I don't know. It feels like it.
Yeah, so it's been okay. A couple things before we talk about our numbers. The global shipping program is quietly expanding.
It seems like it's expanding because... And I mean expanding into different categories, because maybe people were allowed to buy from these countries before, but I sold something to someone in global shipping, and it's going to China. And I'm like, that would be amazing to tap into that market if they're going to ship to China for way more categories.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen any kind of updates or announcements about this. It's just we've only noticed because someone will buy an item, and we'll be like, oh, they're in this country, and it's going through global... It's shipping, and we've never seen that before.
So China would be amazing, and Central and South America would also be amazing. I have sold something to Mexico through global shipping once, and then this week it was someone in Chile.
Right.
And which is great because I've had such problems for things getting to like Brazil.
And we sold something to someone in China. So yeah. You know,
yeah, so
that was a big deal.
I mean those are two huge markets that I'm just I mean India obviously would be a huge one too. If they would just tap into whatever the best shipping, which I think is like DHL over there.
And you know, we will ship anywhere, but the global shipping program is great because, you know, we just have to get it to Kentucky to the eBay warehouse. And then after that,
they take care of it.
Because, like, we sold, like, a battery to someone in Jordan.
Yeah, it was a charger.
And and
Yeah, it was
tracking stopped, and the guy said he didn't get it.
I'll get into it in customer issues because I'll tell you what the problem was too. But still, but you're like, if it was through global shipping, it would be done. Like there'd be no issue. So.
Okay, let's talk about our numbers for the week. How do we do?
Okay.
We sold 42 items for about $1,700. It's still Saturday, so eBay does their week from Sunday to Saturday. So we still have the rest of the day, but that's about kind of where we're at.
It was definitely lower than the past few weeks.
We sold a couple things on Bonanza, and then in our second store, we actually had a better week than we normally do. We sold 15 items for about $500.
Yeah.
This is the autopilot store, and it's just, we don't list, so people who are like, if you don't list, you won't sell anything.
Yeah, this other store has been going
Not true
pretty
for
well.
us, but so it's good. Okay, things we sold. A couple things. We sold a set of Swedish
chisels
for $200.
I think I bought these. I know, right? You're like, what? I bought these for, it was kind of a high price. It was $20.
Yeah.
But I looked up the brand. They were vintage, but they weren't like antique vintage where like they had plastic handles. Right. If they had wooden handles and were actually antique, they would be worth like $800, which I originally put them up for, and people were like,
yeah,
no.
So that's what I wanted to make a note on. It's not a bad thing. It's just how we work. Mm-hmm. When we buy things that we don't really know about, we'll do a search, and we tend towards going for the moon.
I price high.
And, and often that works. In this case, we put it at crazy high. I think it was even high. I think it might have been 1,000.
No. I don't think so.
We started getting these guys who would write us, these tool heads, who were like, "Are you selling solid gold?" And
I said yes.
But the great thing about that is then you let the market kind of tell us. Now, if one or two guys are saying that, we're like, they're just like trying to hunt for a deal. That. It was more than that. I even asked people a couple of questions, and then we're like, oh yeah, these aren't really worth that as much as we think, and we lowered the price and sold.
Yeah, and I think I took an offer too. Yeah. Like someone was like,
right,
200. I was like, yes.
Right, and and some people were like, well, why don't you just put it on auction? And then that's another way of allowing it. I guess in that case, our thing is just like we don't trust that the right people will be online to bid during that auction, that short a window of the auction period. We feel better doing it. It's like this.
And I'm happy with 200. Yeah. I was like, great. I
$20 to 200?
I mean, I only had them up for like a month.
Yep.
So that's amazing for me.
I'll take a $200 bill.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, we sold buttons.
Buttons.
And we just talk about that. It's like
it's a pipeline.
I love it. It's a pipeline. We bought a cache of buttons
it was like
at an auction.
two Tupperware shoe bins.
It was like $50.
They were already sorted. Right. Mostly already sorted.
It was like, a woman had like probably done a lot of craft stuff, and there were like crazy ones, and there were like really fancy ones in there.
Some were really fancy, like mother of pearl, like glass rhinestones.
Right. So we sold 4 different little bags this week and made $120, and
that's like just this week. Right. I mean, we've sold so many before.
I love it.
Yeah, that's a great.
We sold some fabric, like 3 different kinds of fabric.
Yeah, different lots.
$75, and again,
that's also a pipeline.
I just bring that up because we had once been really into a fabric, or we were finding these big boxes of fabric pieces.
Yeah,
and we were all about it's making the like swatches and whatever you want to call them.
Well, just like remnants. But
and people buy that stuff.
Large enough remnants, you can make something out of it.
And we did that more than a couple of years ago, and they're still selling.
Oh yeah, I mean, you just got to find the right person.
And then this is something you had mentioned on the forum. We sold a vintage bag. It's like a little carry-on.
It's like a Samsonite, like 70s carry-on.
$30. It was like, okay, who cares? Big deal.
Yeah.
It sold to True Detective.
Look, we mentioned this a couple months ago.
An American television show.
The True Detective Season 3 also bought a bag from us like a month or so ago it was like this super 70s like knitting bag with like rainbows on it and stuff. And then they bought this Samsonite one.
And it looks like the kind of bag that you would see in like a show about the 80s or whatever, where a guy's like has like a bunch of cash in it, and
like
he's
stuffing
like
cash into it,
and a gun. So,
Yep.
And other people said on the forum that they've been selling stuff to
other production. Nobody said
prop
True
houses.
Detective yet.
But there are other shows, and because
Goldbergs,
right? Because right now TV shows are filming
like retro.
yeah,
stuff.
so it's cool. It's it's kind of the fun part of the business.
Well, what's always fun is when you sell to a show that's not out yet, like that show Glow, which is on Netflix. It's hilarious. It's
Gorgeous
great.
Ladies of
Wrestling. It's such a great show. We sold to that show several purses before I had even heard of it. Like, nobody knew what it was. And then I watched the show and I was like, we sold purses to them.
So had you seen them?
It's really hard to see. I looked for them, but
Now, how can you tell if it sells to one of those
usually
companies?
it'll say like care of this show.
Right.
Like True Detective, it's like so-and-so's prop house, care of True Detective season 3. So that they're like knowing where to go. But sometimes you'll sell to people and you have no idea if it's that
I do
show.
wonder if anyone knows the answer, like really knows the answer. What happens to all that stuff? So after True Detective's over,
I know some answers.
Do the prop? Okay, go.
So one thing that happened, that show, not True Detective, but True Blood. We have friends that live in New Orleans, and they went to the sale of all the props of True Blood. There was a sale of them because it was owned by the production company. It wasn't like a prop company.
So they just like sold
They
off
sold
a
off a
warehouse
lot
of
of
junk,
stuff.
yeah.
But also, some production companies keep that stuff as part of their like.
Right.
I mean, I've seen them in like LA where they have like warehouses of stuff.
Yeah,
for
like
rent.
I know there are prop companies who are just buying stuff and then they, and so they pull from their own inventory.
Also, I used to work on it. How did I forget? I used to work on a television show, a kids' television show, and when the show Zoom, yes, I used to work on Zoom. And when that show ended, they had like a prop yard sale, and actually our kitchen plates that we still eat off of were from Zoom.
Zoom,
Yeah,
cool.
So they do like yard, sales, like prop sales. But
Yeah.
I'm sure there's another answer too.
No, I think those are good answers. Okay, scavenge of the week. We didn't do a lot of scavenging.
Did a little bit.
But this week was all about clothes. For some reason, we had just run into like good sales on clothes, and just this is totally just the bare bones structure of our business is just like bags of clothes. Buy them cheap,
Vintage.
buy them for $1 or less.
Yeah.
And you sell them for $20 or more. And and this is where, so we're thinking about hiring another helper.
Yeah.
Because the current one we have, she got a full-time job. Good for her. Great.
Yep.
But she still works for us 4 hours a week, and and we'll and she does about 6 things an hour. Yeah. So we give her the stuff that we absolutely do not want to take pictures of. We're like, this is like the stuff we don't, and she loves it. She's like, yeah, it's great. It's so interesting.
Yeah.
We need another helper.
We just have so much stuff.
Because I'm just like, I like selling clothes. I don't like to take pictures of it. And so this is perfect for someone who can just like burn through piles of clothes.
Yeah,
So
and you
we'll
can
see.
do it quick if you're, being
So
paid
this new possibility, she comes on Monday.
to have a meeting.
And we're going to meet with her and kind of show her and just kind of get a feel for if she's interested,
And we'll keep our other...
if she's a motivator.
Our other helper.
Yeah.
I mean...
Yeah. Have two people.
helpers. Okay, customer issues. We mentioned this earlier. I had a customer buy like a phone charger thing.
In Jordan.
So the issue is the tracking did stop in the U.S., but...
It was first class.
It was first class. He only paid, of course. His address that he gave me was just a mobile telephone number. It literally was like, instead of the street number and address. It was like mobile telephone number, this. And I wrote to him and I was like, I don't think this is valid. Like, I don't think the post office is going to allow it. And he's like, nope, yep, it's fine.
So, I mean, my question is, so on eBay, under his name and his shipping, eBay allowed a phone number to be...
They allowed it.
Okay.
I mean, it was like so-and-so name, mobile phone number, the mobile phone number, this city in Jordan.
Right.
And I wrote to him and I was like, that's not going to work.
Right.
Like, I've never seen this before. And he said, I live in a rural place.
Right.
My post office is just going to call me.
Right. You know,
you confirmed it.
It could be like the old days in America where it was like
totally fine.
You could write a person's name and town on an envelope,
they'd know you,
and it would get to you.
Yeah. So I'm like, whatever. That should have been a red flag, and I should have canceled it then. But so I called eBay because he opened a case, did not receive. I called eBay Anchor Support, and I said, look, this person's address is super weird. He confirmed it, but whatever. It's questionable. And she was like, well, the tracking stopped in the United States, so I'm not going to close it. And I was like, oh, really? So he escalates it where he's like, basically, give me my money back. And there's nothing I can do. So I call eBay and I'm like, this guy's address was a phone number.
Right.
And they closed it in my favor.
Right. Because, I mean, I think because that's the way eBay works. If you ship it to the address that eBay gives you. What in this case was bad, though, is that there was no tracking that said delivered, but eBay, thank God, saw our side of the,
But, that's why I love global shipping, because it's just like,
Yeah.
it gets to Kentucky and then they deal with it,
I did ask you this, and I'm still wondering about our own corporate policy. So if we ship outside of global shipping, why don't we make people pay for priority, because that would have tracking. Like, why do we...
That tracking is not guaranteed.
Okay.
It depends on the country.
Gotcha.
Like, if you send something to the UK first class, there's tracking, and it's going to say delivered, whether it's first class or priority mail. If you send it to Jordan, there could be nothing once it leaves the United States.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what it is. It's the same postal system.
Yep.
So... unless you're sending it like Global Express guaranteed, which nobody's going to pay for.
Hopefully, I bet soon, I bet in our lifetime, there will be like a miniature cameras that are so cheap. You could just throw it in a box.
No, you know what?
It
wouldn't be a camera. It would be an RFID tag so that you can like a GPS tracker.
GPS tracker plus a camera with an audio thing on it. So when like someone opened the box, you could talk to the person like, "Hey."
Talk about a surveillance state. Right? Jesus Christ.
But is it a surveillance state if everyone can see each other? I think surveillance state is just when like one person or one, the government has power over everyone else.
This is a very large conversation.
Looking at everybody else.
Then why do you have tape over your
my
webcam?
Camera? Well, because because I don't. Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Don't look at me, bro. Okay.
Things we learn in the forum.
Yeah, this isn't really a forum thing. We had a call a week ago, and we talked about it on the podcast.
We were very confused.
We were getting messages saying that we had been confused by her question, and that's very possible. So
what she was saying was when she... Wait, now I'm confused.
She will refund a buyer her money. No, so a buyer wants a return, and she would just refund the buyer, including the shipping cost, when she didn't need to. And then eBay wouldn't give her a refund on the final value fee for her.
See, that's not what I think she said. I think this is a different issue. I think what she thought was when she's giving a refund to, say someone pays $5 for shipping.
Okay.
But it was only $3.50. Mm-hmm. So she's like, I'm going to give them $1.50 back.
I'm going to give them their entire $5.
So I'm going to give them the $1.50 difference that it was to ship because it was cheaper than what they paid. And then she's calling eBay for that credit, but that's not what the original call that she thought. The original call was, if someone sends you back a sweater, they don't open a case, and you refund them through PayPal, you call eBay and you're like, I want my final value fees back because this person returned it and I refunded them through PayPal.
And they did it outside of the shipping
system.
Yeah, the system.
But I honored their return.
Right.
Then eBay will be like, okay, I'll give you your final value fee for this item, this item, this item, this item. I think that was the original call. And she misinterpreted that and tried to get a credit on some other kind of refund. And that's why I was like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, if that person, if we answered wrong or if we misunderstood, call back. I'd love to.
The original person who called on the first thing called in this week. So we're going to hear what they say in a moment.
Okay. I'm into it.
Yeah.
Okay. So should we go straight to the calls?
Yes.
Okay. Let's hear from what people have called us about.
The phone number is 540-407-8486. You have 3 minutes to leave a message.
Hello, I am calling in reference to the lady who called last week about getting reimbursed shipping fees. It happened to be me who called in, so I wanted to clarify that. It wasn't about shipping fees. I've never gotten anything from eBay for my shipping fees. This was for items that I would have reimbursed or partially reimbursed and just reimbursed them through PayPal. And eBay has a record of that. So if you do a partial reimbursement through PayPal, eBay's not going to automatically refund you any of your fees for that. So you have to call eBay and say, okay, on this item, I reimburse this much. On this item, I reimburse the whole thing. And they can see it, and then they reimburse. But that is not on shipping fees. To clarify, that was not on shipping. It was on the item itself if I reimbursed somebody and it was not through somebody filing a claim or a case or whatever. Also, just a little tip, if somebody emails you in your private email and they're asking for a partial refund on something, you should copy that email and create a message in eBay and paste that into the eBay message. Because I had somebody do that. It was feedback extortion, and I told them to return an item, and they weren't going to return it. They just wanted some money back off of it. And so I didn't give them the money back. I told them to return it. And they left me negative feedback. And when I called eBay about feedback extortion, they said that an email that is a private email can be made up and cannot be proven. Therefore, they couldn't take that negative feedback away. So if somebody emails you in your private email and wants money back for something, copy that into an eBay message so that it is there, and the person's either going to go away or whatever. They're going to follow through. Anyway, that's all. And thank you for everything you do. Bye-bye.
Okay, cool. I mean,
so that's it. It was, when someone's like, one of the, wine glasses broke, and you're like, okay, I'm going to give you a partial refund of X amount, and they don't open a case, and you want like a fraction of your final value feedback, which, you can totally do that, it sounds like. So that's the clarification.
Yeah. Ryan, this is stuff that you normally handle.
Yeah.
When it's something like, did you refund someone like $6? Did you even ask for your final value fee on $6?
I never even thought to do that.
Yeah.
Look, if I were refunding a lot of stuff that way, people open cases. If they're like, one of the glasses broke, and you're like, great. And then you say, I will send a partial refund of $5.
It just seems like such an edge case.
But you know what? It sounds good that you can do that. So if you want to get a handful of final value fees back, you can.
All right.
Hey, Jay and Ryan. This is Brian from Illinois. I got a question for you. So I was at an auction last weekend, and there was this piece of advertising art. I'm not exactly sure. Well, if it wasn't a painting, some kind of printed material, but I'm pretty sure it was from the 1940s. There's a town in Illinois called Rock Island, and this was an advertising piece for some company from that town, and it had a picture or image of an Indian, a Native American on it, and this thing was beautiful. I looked it over pretty closely, and there was some printing for this company that's long gone out of business, but it was about 4 feet long and probably 3 feet high. It had a wooden frame, and I looked it over real closely. I thought there was going to be some water damage or something because it was old, but it was not. And I looked at the back of it. I could tell it was old, but it was in really good condition. I mean, it was really impressive. And I had to leave before they got to that item, but I stood there and looked at it for a while, and then I thought, wow, this thing is really cool, but boy, how would I ship this thing? And I know you guys had some art on consignment a couple of years ago where you sold a whole bunch of it. So I thought I'd call you and ask you, how do you package that? Because this thing, it's like 4 feet long. If I put it in a cardboard box and padded it real well, they set something else on top of it, I'm just afraid that image that would get ruined. So that's my question. Thanks.
4 feet long, 3 feet high. It's huge.
How do you do it?
Oh, God, I'd be like local pickup only. Oh, yeah. I don't know.
Well, I mean,
3
something
feet high, 4 feet long. I mean, the post office won't take that.
Yeah, I mean, something like that is bigger than what we've dealt with. I mean, we're talking about pieces that are like like they're 3x2 or something like that. And what we did was we bought pieces of cardboard from a
right, and this is like flat. I mean,
right.
I'm talking about flat pieces. He said this has a wooden frame around it.
I know.
So.
I don't have an answer for him other than, like you said, a local pickup. What I'm saying, there are other kinds of art that we've sold where the way we've done it is you get pieces of cardboard. They just sell these like flat pieces.
Like double-walled cardboard.
And then you just put the piece of artwork in there and sandwich it in, tape it up.
Yeah.
It's good to go.
Right. But something like this, I mean, look, the problem with all the shippers is dimensional weight or the dimensions, where you just really have to measure it and be like, would they take this? Would FedEx Ground take this? Would UPS Ground take this? And you pay for someone to package it, or you could package it yourself,
And also, oftentimes a piece of artwork is cool, but the frame itself really isn't that big of a deal.
You could just take it out.
And you really have to be like, is this really, something someone cares about, the piece of glass and the frame?
Right.
Sometimes we just take out the piece of artwork and sell the piece of artwork
so that we can
itself.
ship it flat.
Right.
I had 2 paint by numbers recently. One of them sold, and you couldn't tell that there was glass on it, and we didn't say there was glass, so I just shipped it without the glass. Mm-hmm. And then the second one that hasn't sold yet, I'm going to take the glass out because it's so much easier to box something up and pad it and not have glass, because you're like, it's going to be fine, without the glass.
I mean, there are times when a piece of art is more valuable because it's been a nicely
professionally framed,
but then you just have to make sure that you put that into the cost of the piece.
Right.
And I'm always like, add a handling fee, not just the shipping fee, but the time it takes to put it together, plus all the materials, put that in there too.
But it sounds like you didn't buy it. Maybe that was better.
Hello, Scavengers. Hey, I totally enjoy listening to your podcast. I just wanted to call in. I have a couple questions to ask. Been selling on eBay for a while, and I'm considering changing my username from what is more of a personal name to what I want to change it to is more like a business name. And my question is, how will that affect my feedback score? Will it have any drastic effects? Will my feedback go to 0 and I have to start over again? Or will it change anything with my selling account? Now, with that, it'd be great. I didn't know if you had any insight. But again, then I haven't just started recently selling on Bonanza. And I noticed I'm not getting a lot of views on my items. So I'm curious to how a paid account might be versus the unpaid. I just have a basic account right now. So I was wondering if it would help me to upgrade to see improvements in sales with a paid account. But if you could, let me know any insights you have on that. Awesome podcast. Thanks for putting on such a great podcast. Keep up the good work.
I think we've said this before. Nobody cares what your username is on eBay.
No one looks like...
Does not matter.
You can be Cool Guy 842, or you could be, the sock store, the official sock store. I mean, no one cares. They're looking at price and the photos.
And you can change your username, and it will not change your feedback to 0. You are allowed to, like, when I first started, my username was my email address. I don't know if anyone remembers that. That was your username. But, I changed it over time to be other things. So, yeah. And then Bonanza, I don't even look at Bonanza. And I have a free account, and... It's
just free money or whatever.
Yeah,
it's just like
I don't
bonus.
look at it.
Like, we sync our stores.
I don't look at it.
Something sells once or twice a week.
Yeah.
I don't look at it.
Don't think too hard.
Yeah.
Hey, Jay and Ryan. This is the Georgia Hillbilly, located in Peachtree City, Georgia. Hey, I've got a question now that Christmas is over about seasonality, and I'm talking about specifically seasonality that is specific to lines of items. I'll give you an example. Bicycle parts, especially vintage bicycle parts that I used to sell so much of. I found that in February and March, there was a market for those that was good and strong. After March, about half that or even less. And then as the summer waned on, it became non-existent. And, of course, over the fall and winter, you were lucky to sell anything at all. You had a guest a few weeks ago that talked about how they sold a lot of bathing suits during the winter. So I'm wondering if you've noticed any other trends yourself specific to items that are kind of outside of what you would think or the normal seasonality sales on eBay. All right. Thank you. I look forward to the answer. Bye.
I mean, our answer is always the same. Once we get an item up into our store, we just never take it down. So
yeah, I mean, we list, jackets and coats and sweaters any time of the year. Sweaters sell in the middle of the summer during a heat wave.
And even if not, we'll start doing it in August.
Yeah.
So they'll be up for when people start thinking about the cold. I mean, other people might, who specialize in Christmas stuff, or maybe they have different ways of doing it because they don't want they list 500 Christmas ornaments and they want to not have that stuff up. I don't know.
I mean, that's just not. That's just not how we run our store. So, yeah, I don't notice trends like that because I'm just like whatever sells any time of the year.
I mean, we were having a conversation like that in our forum where people are like, what's the best way to list? Do I need to list one thing in an hour? Do I need to list 10 things a day? Should I do it in the morning? And I'm just like, the way our life is, it's too kind of chaotic and hectic. I'm just lucky that we have time to put stuff up. So whenever we have time to put things into our store, they just go up. We don't have the luxury to fine tune and
every day at 11 a.m.
Yeah, and on November 15th we'll start doing Christmas stuff. It's it doesn't matter. It's just let's just get it done.
I just listed some Christmas ornaments that we bought on sale.
Right. Because a listing itself, if you have a store subscription, it's cheap. A listing fees are not a big deal.
Yeah, they're small enough.
Yeah.
Although I will disagree with you. I don't think our lives are hectic and chaotic, like you said. But we have a variety of things happening that, if I'm listing in the afternoon versus in the morning, it just doesn't matter.
Yeah, I
list.
I guess I don't mean bad chaotic. Just we have a lot of stuff in our lives. And,
right.
We don't have to be scientific about when things go up.
Hey, Ryan. Hey, Jay. This is Lynn from Houston, Texas. So shout out to my homeboy, Jay. I have a situation that I'm trying to think through how to handle and pick your brains on this. So I sold a wool blanket throw that I had a lot of people eyeballing because it had a certain look to it, and people offering me trying to get it for less money than I wanted, and I kept saying no. And it finally sold full price. And so I packed it up and shipped it. It took me several days to ship it. I have a 4-day shipping policy because I have a lot of other things on my plate and want to make sure that I always get there. So the buyer during that wait period did not contact me to say that they had buyer's remorse or anything like that. I have the shipping label on it completely before, and it was to, I shipped it FedEx Smart Post, and it was to the shipper on the day that I heard from the buyer. She sent me a note that she no longer wanted the blanket, that she'd had a medical condition come up, brain aneurysm, and her husband had lost his job, and she did not need the blanket. And she had a very explicit plan herself that what she was going to do was refuse the blanket, refuse receipt of the blanket when it arrived. She was going to do a refusal so that it would just turn around and ship back to me, and that she wanted, a refund minus, of course, the shipping that I charged her to ship it to her, and minus my 15% restocking fee. She was fine with paying that. So I emailed her back and said, okay, no problem, but we need to follow the eBay process, because she was wanting her refund immediately. And I was saying, no, we're going to follow the eBay return process, and you'll get your refund that way. So then I watched the tracking, and it arrived to her. And on the day that it arrived to her, she reached out and got my phone number off of the eBay transaction and called me directly now to let me know that it had arrived and she had refused it, and it was on its way back to me, for her refund. I then went and looked it up, and yeah, it did show her refusal. On the tracking, it shows refused, and then it just seems hung up in limbo. Like it says, it's in the processing, return to sender, and it's been sitting there for quite a while, 5 days probably now. So I don't have a full anchor store. I have the next level down. So here's my dilemma. And I did not insure the item. So I'm thinking, number one, if I call eBay and say, what do I do about this? I realize, number one, I can call and have the item the return closed, because it's beyond the days. On eBay side, it just shows, that the approval was, or the return was approved. We're waiting for the buyer to return or reship the item. So from eBay's standpoint, I could call and have it just closed that way. I don't know what hell or fury I'll have to pay from the buyer, if she sees that, and then starts down trying to get a refund through PayPal or anything like that. So I'm not sure to approach it that way. And this is going to sound terrible, I don't know if maybe she's not dead. Maybe she's, her medical condition has arisen again, and I don't know if she's scamming me. It's just, when I look back at her feedback, she had bought several things repeatedly. They're all more than a year old, or about a year old, and then nothing. No other purchases within the past 12 months. So that kind of makes me suspicious. I don't know if I should call and try to track the package back to me, because, then if it's lost, or they say, oh, so sorry, it's lost, without any insurance on it, I'm going to lose out that way. So I'm trying to make a decision on exactly how to approach this, or if I should just sit on it, which is what I'm doing now, just kind of sitting on it to see what happens and who's going to complain first, and if eBay's just going to come in and automatically close it within a certain period, if this buyer's going to try to come back at me through PayPal later for her refund, if the package is just going to eventually show back up to me. I don't know.
Hey, number one, hello to Houston.
Houston, Texas.
Okay, yeah, honestly, even the question is like way too long. Like, we do not let ourselves get that deep into someone else's problem. I hear you. When someone will refuse a package, sometimes it does take a while to get back because the post office kind of
they have to like reprocess it.
And they don't like it, I bet, and they like put it into the second category, like it becomes like a second class problem to them, and it finally gets back to you. I mean, it's like you said, we don't get involved in people's deep problems. We just say, send it back. When it gets back to us, we'll give you a refund.
That's it.
And that's the process, and that's how eBay will back us up.
Right. Right.
So it sounds like you did everything right. Just, in the future, just maybe not get quite so involved in people's like crazy problems.
Like if someone had said, "I'm going to refuse this package," like I'm trying to think, would I even write back to them? I might just be like, whatever. Like,
I wouldn't even write back to them.
That's your prerogative.
That's their choice, and until I get it back, I don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
We've talked about it before. And you can search for it on our old podcast. We have a method. A method. If someone's not asking for anything specific, they're just kind of like telling us about the cancer they have all of a sudden.
The car accident they've been in.
They're bankrupt. It's like, okay, that's fine. But you're not asking me anything. Just eBay has a process. If you want to return something, go for it.
It reminds me of I've had people type or handwrite paper letters to me saying they're going to return something. And it's so funny because I'm like, great, go for it. Right. And then I never get the return, Right. You're just like, I don't... Yeah, you just start like, there's a process, go through the process, and most people don't want to go through the eBay returns.
Yeah, so I'm sorry that happened to you. You just got one of those buyers who, I don't know, they buy things late at night and then they wake up and they realize, who knows.
Yeah.
Hey, Jay and Ryan, this is Daryl. Longtime fan and listener since the Mikey and Wendy days, and calling in had a fun report. As I've heard you talk about, and others know that now eBay and the Postal Service will charge your account if you owe money on your postage, automatically deducted. And I had something, I just got a message, and I was pretty excited about it. I got that message, and I assumed, I didn't put enough postage on something. They charged me, and I'm glad for it. But actually, it was the reverse. I had overpaid, and I got a small refund. I shipped something that was under 8 ounces, and I think what happened, I kind of remember this, was I got busy and I rushed through printing a label. I think I printed a full 16 ounces rather than the 8-ounce rate, and they caught it, and they sent me a refund of $1.53. So, that's pretty awesome. I've never gotten money back from eBay or the U.S. Postal Service without, going through the void process and all that. So that was pretty awesome. So I wanted to just report in that seems to work both ways. So, guys, have a good time, and big fan.
That's awesome.
I never thought that would happen.
Well, I
never thought that they would be like, oh, you underpaid. Here's $1.
Yeah, they said what its process is. Probably doesn't happen very much because more often than not, people are
underpaying, not overpaying.
I'm always so. We've been dinged, I think, 4 times now in the past 3 months for under a weighing an item, and it's like I said, it's not a good thing to do because they charge you the maximum retail price, so it's never a good thing to do. And so if you're under by like 0.2 ounces, but it's good. Like, that's just the way it is, and they're now finding a way to be more efficient and,
No, it's really good. And I'm glad that they are giving people money owed. I mean, that's amazing. I did not think they would do that, because how would you ever know if they didn't? But that's a great call. I'm glad to hear it. Okay, you can check out the blog at scavengerlife.com for the links we discussed and join the conversation on the forums. You can leave a question or a comment on our voicemail line. The phone number is 540-407-8486. We post an episode every Monday morning. On Wednesday, we post a What Sells video, currently brought to you by Steven Schultz. You can subscribe to us through iTunes or YouTube, so you always get the latest episode. We're ending this podcast in 3, 2, 1.
Goodbye.